a sling, and a prayer at dawn. The air before dawn was cold enough to bite. Mist clung to the grass, and somewhere beyond the trees a British drum muttered like distant thunder. My hands shook, not from a cold alone, but from the weight of the musket resting against my knee. One shot, one chance, and then men would die. I dropped to one knee in the damp earth and pressed my forehead against the stock of that gun. "Lord," I whispered, "I am not strong enough for what's coming." Around me, other men stood silent, farmers, blacksmiths, fathers. None of us were soldiers by trade. We were sons of soil and sweat, called out by alarm bells and conscience. Across the fields stood the mightiest army in the world. Red coats, cannons, years of war behind them. And here we were, ragged, outnumbered, and afraid. I thought of the story my mother read by candlelight when I was a boy. A shepherd, too young for armor, standing before a giant no man dared face. David didn't curse the giant. He didn't boast in his own strength. He looked past the armor, past the spear, and said the battle belonged to the Lord. I breathed in slowly. "If you carry David," I prayed, "carry us." The captain's voice came low but firm. "Stand your ground." My mind raced. I had plowed fields with these hands. I had rocked my son to sleep with them. They were not made for killing. Yet Scripture echoed in my chest, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" Fear was there, but no longer ruled me. When the first shots cracked the morning, the world split open. Smoke swallowed the field. Men shouted. Someone fell beside me, clutching his chest. I wanted to run. Every part of me wanted to turn and flee like Saul's army before Goliath. But David didn't run. So I stayed. I loaded. I aimed. I fired, not with hatred but with resolve. Each pull of the trigger felt like letting go and trusting God to do what I could not. We were not winning by strength. We were enduring by faith. The British line hesitated. Confusion rippled through their ranks. They had expected us to scatter, to drop our slings and run. Instead, prayer held us where courage alone would have failed. When the smoke cleared, the field was changed forever. Later, as the sun rose, I sat on a fallen log, hands stained with powder and tears. I did not feel like a hero. David didn't either, I suspect. Victory does not always feel like triumph. Sometimes it feels like trembling gratitude. We had stood at places like Lexington and Concord, not because we were mighty, but because we believe the Lord still raises the lowly and confounds the proud. The empire had armor and numbers. We had prayer and cause placed on our hearts. That morning, I learned something no musket could teach me. Faith does not remove fear. It puts fear in its proper place, beneath obedience to God. Just as David's stone flew true, not by strength of arm, but by trust in the Almighty, so our stand was not won by skill alone, but by surrender. The giant fell, not because we were great, but because God was faithful. And as I rose to walk back toward home, I knew this truth would outlast the war itself. A nation, like a man, is strongest when it kneels. Historical and biblical reflection. This story draws on the historical reality of colonial militia facing the British Army at the opening of the Revolutionary War, while the central soldier and his prayer are dramatized. Biblically, it reflects the principle seen in David and Goliath, that victory belongs to the Lord, not to human strength. The American virtue shown is courage rooted in conscience, sustained by faith and humility before God.